when you look at the rest of the league and what they did, a lot of big moves and trades. A.J. Brown goes to the Eagles, monster $100 million deal contract already on the table waiting for him. Hollywood Brown goes to the Cardinals to help out Kyler Murray. But the other teams I thought had a huge round one impact had to be the Ravens, coming away with Kyle Hamilton at 14. Just feels like you can go ahead and start making a Hall of Fame bust right now. Just a typical classic Ravens pick in the middle of the round, letting the draft come to them, seeing who falls in their lap. And then Tyler Linderbaum. A lot of people said the best center prospect to come out in years, but the Jets made big waves as well. Sauce Gardner, your guy. Garrett Wilson, your other guy. Trading back for Jermaine Johnson, my guy. It means that's 3 big-time talents and starters they went home with. For better or worse, winners or losers, who else stood out to you last night?
Really, my thing is, it was funny. I was listening to Freddie Coleman last night on the way home, and there was a guy on, and he was just like, who would have thought the Lions, the Jets, you're talking about them being winners of the draft. I mean, and you look at it, and they are, man. The Lions get Aiden Hutchinson, and I know Luke Braun was not a big fan of him yesterday, but
called him a little twerp.
I know. I was like,
he's a little twerp.
Dang. I was like, dang, dude. Like, okay, don't let Aiden catch you in the street. But but I think them coming away with that, and then coming away with Jameson Williams as well, you know, we probably won't see him until midway through the season, but you're talking long-term with this guy. And you got a guy who can totally take the top off of a defense if Jared Goff doesn't overthrow him. And so I think we're talking about them. We're also talking about the Jets. And, I mean, for what they got, I think the Giants made out well as well. I mean, how about the NFC East, man? Like, you know, Philly comes in and gets A.J. Brown. Like, that's a very significant trade when you talk about now them having Devontae Smith and then A.J. Brown on the other side. Like, Jalen Hurts is about to hurt him this year. You know what I mean? Like, this draft was chaos. And it was the good kind of chaos. And it was also the unexpected kind of chaos. But that is the NFL draft experience. And, man, it's so funny because we saw all this movement. I don't think anybody was expecting to see these wide receivers moved. But it makes sense considering what the market has been this offseason. No quarterbacks. Baker Mayfield is still on the Browns. Jimmy Garoppolo is still on the 49ers. Like, one quarterback was taken overall in the draft last night by the Steelers, and that was it. Like, that was kind of crazy to me last night.
Yeah, we sat here 2 weeks leading up to draft. We all said it. This is not a great quarterback class. If you needed one, you missed out last year, 5 in the first round. If you need one this year, you might as well just wait and stockpile this year for next year, loaded class next year. But we all knew that, and then we followed that statement up with, but it's the NFL. It's a quarterback-driven league, most important position in sports. Watch, there'll still be 3 or 4 quarterbacks being drafted on round 1. That was not the case. Teams stood back, they stood pat, and they didn't force it. And I don't know what's going to happen now in these first 10 picks. Now that the dust settles on night 1, teams have a chance to kind of hit the reset button, reevaluate their boards, and start making calls these next 24 hours. And I'm expecting a little run here on these quarterbacks. Again, Malik Willis should go real early soon. Sam Howell, North Carolina, was rumored to go in the first round. Matt Corral. Desmond Ritter, the other guy. I would assume these first 10, 15 picks, there's a little bit of a run. I wouldn't be surprised if 3 of them went early on, especially when you look at the order. There's some quarterback needy teams that at this point you should take a shot on for sure. Wild and crazy first round. We knew it was going to come. New England Patriots, Bill Belichick. He's going to Bill Belichick. Takes Cole Strange. Cole Strange in the first round?
I know.
I mean,
kind of strange.
Whoa. Okay. Yeah. But again, that's just what we're used to with the Patriots. Last one before we move on, I just want to talk about, because you already touched on the Lions. Man, that's going to make huge ripple effects, huge waves, impact and influence this NFC North for a long time, for better or worse. But what you think about the Packers? Everybody just assumed, I mean, they're not going to take just one they're going to take 2 wide receivers. And we talked about it. It's a deep receiver class. They'll certainly dip into that pool later on today, but no receivers taken. They take a linebacker from Georgia, not named Nakobe Dean, and they take another Georgia defender, a really boomer bust prospect, in Devon Wyatt. I mean, how surprised were you with the Packers' 2 selections, knowing that we just assumed they would go wide out?
So it was interesting because a lot of people were trolling the Packers. And what you may not remember is Devontae Adams was a 2nd-round pick.
Oh, yeah. Fresno State, Derek Carr connection. Yep.
And so I think it may be a little arrogance or maybe just some confidence, but I think that they feel like Aaron Rodgers can make the best out of any receivers that he has. And, you know, you got Sammy Watkins going there, which, you know, I'm not sure what to think about him. I think he is a good wide receiver, but the problem with him is health. And he's just gotten beaten down over these last few years to the point where now he's bounced around teams. And I think he can be good for them. But I also think that they probably feel like they could get some value here in the 2nd or 3rd round with the wide receiver. And working with Aaron Rodgers, he could take that receiver to the next level. And we've seen it with him in the past. You know, he's throwing to guys like Jeff Janis. He's just like, who is that? But, you know, all of a sudden he's having a big game. You know, Alan Lazard, you know, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, you know, who just got paid by the Chiefs. And, you know, he was just a guy, you know, at some point. And so I think they feel confident that they can mold someone to be Aaron Rodgers, like next Devontae Adams or something like that. I mean, it's hard to replicate a Devontae Adams, but these receivers are coming out so talented and skilled these days in the draft. And we see, you know, what the market is like for them. They feel like maybe they can get better value from a receiver, maybe in the 2nd or 3rd round. What I think it signifies is they felt like they had a defensive problem. They get 2 guys in Quay Walker and Wyatt, and they are trying to get after it on the defensive side of the ball because they are confident that with Aaron Rodgers being the quarterback and the pieces that they have on the other side, that they'll be fine on offense. But what they want to do is be a bully on defense and compete with teams. I mean, you look at that game that they played against the 49ers in the playoffs, like it wasn't pretty. You know, the offense didn't necessarily have a good game, but, you know, the defense needed some help. And I think what they did was call in the reinforcements on that side of the ball and help themselves really be able to compete. Maybe if the offense isn't humming like in years past, they can go ahead and just bully teams on the defensive side of the ball and maybe play them to, and this is just even crazy to fathom, but maybe play a team to a 10-6 score at the end of a game, you know? And I think that's kind of crazy to think about and crazy to believe. But, I mean, guys like Quay and guys like Devontae, I mean, those guys can be some bullies on the defensive side of the ball, and they can cause some havoc if those guys develop in the way that you think that they could and they kind of live up to their upside. And so those are pretty good value picks for them. I know a lot of people were kind of poo-pooing on them, kind of laughing at the picks like, oh, my God, you know, but at what point in that round, based on where they were picking, did you see them getting a receiver? Like, what receiver did you expect them to get with where they picked on those 2 times? Like, it probably would have been a bit of a reach.
We say it all the time. Let the draft unfold and come to you. Take BPA. And I think it speaks volumes to the luxury you have when you have a premium top-flight quarterback that, as you mentioned, can make average to above average wide receivers look and play so much better than maybe just a middle tier quarterback. And that's what the Packers have done with Aaron Rodgers. I like also what you mentioned, just speaking out again, Aaron Rodgers getting up there in age. What's he got? 2-3 great years left. The style of his play certainly is going to start to change here a little bit. It's not going to be throw it 50 times a game or scramble 12 times a game like we're used to. They're going to try to play a lot more defensive front, defensive heavy football. When you look at that front 7 now with Kenny Clark, Devondre Campbell, Rashawn Gary really came on last year. And then you had 2 more young pieces from that dominant Georgia defense who broke record with 5 defenders going in the first round. Quay Walker, Devontae Wyatt, boomer bust prospect. With 2 first-round picks, we're going to maximize our value, and we're going to dip into that wide receiver pool later on. Sky Moore, Christian Watson, George Pickens, there's tons of them, Reggie, and I'm sure they'll dip into that, a la what they did, again, as you mentioned, with Devontae Adams. It's going to be a lot of fun, man. We're going to be back here Monday to recap the rest of the draft, rounds 2 through 7. Again, Vikings have 3 picks today. Who knows? Maybe they'll end up with more than that as Kwesi tries to outdo Rick Spielman in the trade department, something that a lot of fans didn't expect.